The Minnesota Vikings had an amazing 2024 season, going 14-3 on the season, and they were a lot of fun to watch. But unfortunately, they fell just short in the wild card round, and now go into the 2025 offseason with some questions on some areas that they need to address. My name is Tyler, here with my brother Ryan, and we're going to break down what you can expect the Vikings to do this offseason. But before we do that, if you like the content that we put out and you want to help the Tracy Take channel grow, easiest way is hitting that subscribe button, tackling that bell to get notified when videos come out. While you're at it, leave a like and a comment. Let us know what you want the Vikings to do and why. Ryan, let's pull up the slides here. So once again, Vikings 14-3 on the season, had one of the better passing offenses in the league, just one of the better offense in the league as a whole. I think Jordan Addison is just a perfect complement to Justin Jefferson. Jefferson is, in my opinion, still one of the best receivers in the league. Statistically, he maybe fell off a little bit than normal, but I think just his presence alone, and I say normal for him, is like number one receiver in stats and everything. And so I think he still had an amazing season, best receiver in the league, in my opinion. I think Jordan Addison provides such a great compliment to them. TJ Hawkinson coming back after his ACL tear late in the season helped out a bunch as well. Sam Darnold, I think, had an amazing season. He's going to get paid. And I think at the same time, too, I think the Vikings are excited for the J.J. McCarthy era as well, because there were definitely some faults in the last two games of the season that the Vikings ended up losing that we saw did get brought up to Sam Darnold. But at the same time, though, too, I don't think the offensive line really gave him any favors as well. And so that's why I want to throw it over to you, too. I know we're going to talk about the defense here in a second, but when you look back at this 2024 team, what are some of the main areas you think the Vikings need to address first this offseason?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing that sticks out to me is that rushing offense. One, that passing offense was so elite that they didn't have to run the ball nearly as much. They kind of did a little bit of what we coined on this channel of like running the ball through the air, which is just you have this like short passing game that's highly efficient, that can either spread out the defense or suck them closer to the line of scrimmage or both. And that kind of supplements your running game when you're not necessarily running the ball all that well. And so I think establishing a more powerful running game, what part of that is going to be getting a new back in there. Aaron Jones is 30, I believe, and is a free agent. And so he's kind of hit that point in his career where he is like that 30-year mark is kind of the cutoff, I think, for running backs at the NFL level. Mm-hmm. The other part with that offensive line, Christian Darrisaw going down with injury didn't necessarily help this, but being 23rd in sacks allowed, not a good statistic there. And I actually was surprised by this, but on the defensive side of the ball, 28th in passing defense in passing yards allowed. I think that was a little surprising. The only thing is their cornerback room is so depleted. And they also, I will say, like kind of play a kamikaze style defense still, even with all the edge rush talent that they had this year. Last year, they were kind of forced into it because they were like, we can't cover for more than 2.5 seconds. So we have to send blitzes. But this passing defense being 28th in yards allowed, I think is a little more concerning.
Well, I will say I think there's a little bit that goes into that is they were leading a bunch this
season,
especially early on in the season. So teams were throwing against them. And it's also, too, when you play 2 games against the Lions, 2 games against the Packers, Bears offense sucked this year. So that maybe lowered it down a little bit, if we're being honest. But that being said, I say that on the top of my head. I'm not sure on the passing stats against the Vikings that the Bears had. So maybe they played well. I'll look that up here in a second. But they played in some big games, though, and a lot of times they were up in a vast majority of those games. So I think that's maybe a little bit misleading. But I will say, to your point, though, I think secondary is an area that they need to address, especially, too, as we move on to the free agents here that you could be looking to see the team move on from. Sam Darnold's one that is something that we'll address here in a second. But back to the secondary, Harrison Smith, Byron Murphy, Stephon Gilmore, Shaq Griffin. Anybody else here that is Fabian Moreau?
Cam Robinson is one, but they have Christian Darrisaw coming back, so that's not necessarily one that I think you need to replace right away.
I was just talking about the secondary. Just
sorry.
So, no, you're good. Cameron Bynum as well. So there's a lot of guys that are in the secondary. Harrison Smith's been there for a long time. Potential future Hall of Famer, definitely a Vikings Hall of Famer for sure. And so how does the team want to go about addressing the secondary? Because I think one of the things, and props to Brian Flores, I think that this secondary room in general is a little depleted, and Flores knew that. So he took the mindset of we are going to be super aggressive.
Yeah.
That's why they were second in sacks. That's why
Well,
they were.
he has that mindset anyways.
Well, exactly. So I think it worked out kind of perfectly, and they got the right personnel in there. They were one of the top teams in turnovers. Felt like I think they had a stretch. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think they had a stretch where they had consecutive like defensive touchdown games. I could be wrong, or
Yeah,
maybe it's
I
just
think they did.
multiple turnover games as well. So like their aggressiveness absolutely paid off, and I could see why they did it. The strategy worked out, fit well into this offense as well too, who could put up a lot of points. So I like the style that they have here and that they're setting up. It looks like Brian Flores is going to come back as a defensive coordinator. I haven't seen him doing any head coaching interviews, or at least not too many, I will say. So we'll have to kind of wait and see how things go out. But I think secondary is a big spot as well. I agree with you. Christian Darrisaw is going to come back, so you let Cam Robinson go. But I do think also offensive line in general, I think is something that they need to improve just to help out with the running game. And speaking of running game, getting a running back as well. Aaron Jones, I think, did fine as well. I think if you want to keep him on, but he also might be more expensive than what you're willing to pay compared to if you go get an Omarion Hampton, go get a Caleb Johnson, Travion Henderson, Quinshon Judkins, Dylan Simpson. I mean, those are 5 guys right there that are probably going to go in the top 2 rounds. But there's going to be great guys in day 3 even too that you can
There's
go
like
after.
20 to 25 guys that I feel like in this class that are going to be drafted and be potential like real key contributors in rushing offenses in their rookie season. Like
Well,
it's crazy to me how many talented running backs there are.
Well, and I think that's going to be very interesting too on what they end up doing because Vikings have about 60 million, 58 million in cap space, but they only have 4 picks as of right now. And this is all just projected even too. So even it's not confirmed that they have a 3rd round comp, but they don't have a 2nd round pick. They traded away their original 3rd round pick. So they probably get a 3rd comp because the Falcons signed Kirk Cousins, which that signing paid off perfectly. For the Falcons as well. No wasted money whatsoever. And it's not like I'm a Falcons fan or anything. And so maybe they'll get some other compensatory picks as well, which will help out. But what's going to be interesting, though, is those are, I think, to me, 3 clear areas and that they need to address is the secondary, offensive line, and running back. And they have a lot of cap space. But when it comes to the draft, though, like they're not going to be able to get too much talent in the draft. So that's why I think, to me, Vikings and my Falcons, ironically, have 4 picks as well. And because we lost our 5th round pick from tampering with Kirk Cousins. So I guess it gets even better. But but I think they're a prime candidate to trade back. I think what's going to be very unique, too, is this is not a good quarterback class. So if a team like, hypothetically, Tennessee, Cleveland, New York, or Las Vegas, they skip on a quarterback or aren't available to take one of the top 2 quarterbacks in Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders, I think I'm looking for them in an early, like teams early in the 2nd round to trade up and go and get their guy. So the Vikings could get a little bit of a draft haul back and maybe get that early 2nd round pick, maybe another 3rd round pick and a 4th round pick as well, depending on how things work out and help move up to get more valuable picks because there's going to be really good running backs. They could get that later. I think there's not too many great 1st rounds cornerbacks as of right now. So if they trade back, there's going to be some good day 2 guys where the value would be better. But I say all this because I think where they're truly going to try and bring in talent is going to be in free agency, with DJ Reed, Justin Reed. I threw in DeMar Hamlin there. I think that's a guy that you can get relatively cheaply if Buffalo lets him go. That being said, though, too, I don't know if Buffalo is going to let DeMar Hamlin go just with the whole story. But those are a couple initial names that popped out. And to me, if they really want to splash, go steal Trey Smith from Kansas City. Go pay him $1 million. But if there's one good thing about this Kansas City offensive line, it has been the interior. The tackles have been the biggest issues. So it's going to be interesting what the Vikings do with their limited draft capital, but they have a lot of free agency cap space available to maybe make some moves.
Yeah, no, I definitely think it's going to be interesting seeing kind of what moves that they do decide to make. Especially you're going to have JJ McCarthy back there, and with the sack numbers that they allowed, I wouldn't want a 2nd-year quarterback coming off a torn meniscus back there. But again, he would have the best wide receiver group in the league there with Justin Jefferson and group. I personally like Omarion Hampton the most for them at the running back position. Obviously, if Ashley Genty's there, then correct. But
He's not
but
going to be there.
he's
Probably.
not going to be there, and they're not trading up with what they have. But I
Yeah.
look at teams like Chicago, like New England, that those top of the second round teams that might want to move up, that have have more than 2 day 3 picks, that I think could potentially make a move up and add another top 100 selection there for Minnesota. So all in all, like I think it's a really good situation that Minnesota is in. It is nice to have a little bit of a luxury at that quarterback position where Sam Darnold had a great year, yes, but you have a young gun kind of in the wings, waiting to take over. And from all reports that were coming out during training camp, JJ McCarthy and Sam Darnold were neck and neck in that starting quarterback battle. So hopefully, if JJ McCarthy can come back healthy, that he can play at that level, or if not even better.
Well, and I think too, just to quickly touch on that as well, Sam Darnold, I think, had an amazing season. I think the last 2 games he obviously didn't play well, but I also think too, I talked a lot about the offensive line and needing to improve the offensive line. I think that was also a big weakness as well. They got exploited for these teams against the Detroit Lions defensive front, and also then to the Los Angeles Rams defensive front, which is turning out to be one of the better defensive fronts in the league. A lot of teams are going to have to deal with that young Rams defensive line, but that's a totally separate video. But I think it did almost solidify, be like, okay, we're glad we have JJ McCarthy, because one of the things I was thinking about as well too is just you're going to be paying him $40 million, $45 million. And there's other clear holes on this team that we've addressed already in this video that you're going to need to go out and pay for. And give $45 million to Sam Darnold when you already have JJ McCarthy just waiting there. I think I would trust Kevin O'Connell, because look at what he did with Kirk Cousins. Look at what he did with the 1 year with Sam Darnold. I think you go bring in a guy with JJ McCarthy, who I think has a lot of sneaky upside as well. That's why they took him 10th or 11th overall. They took him with their first round pick last year. I think they can develop him. I think he could turn into a really good quarterback here under this Kevin O'Connell system, and a lot more mobile, a lot younger, and I think just a lot more spry than Sam Darnold is. And props to Sam Darnold. You're going to go get paid. There's going to be teams that are looking for you. I think, to me, maybe even like Las Vegas is probably going to be the route that he ends up going. I don't think he wants anything to do with New York, both the Jets and the Giants. I think he's like, no, I'm not going back
there. Well,
there.
definitely not the Jets, but
definitely not the Jets. The Browns can't afford him. What are some other teams that are coming to
the
my
Raiders
mind?
to me are kind of the leader.
The Raiders, to me, well, that's what I'm saying. Like the Raiders, the one I said, I think is that's just the most clear and obvious choice now. If you bring him in and pay him a lot, or if they want to go and stick with Aiden O'Connell. So I think that'll be a very fascinating kind of matchup on what ends up happening with Sam Darnold's future. But the Vikings, I think, are set at quarterback here with JJ McCarthy coming in.
Yeah, no, I think that the future at that position could be really, really bright for them. I think the future for the Vikings, especially Kevin O'Connell, as we were making plans to record this, got another contract extension to be the head coach. So congrats to him.
Mm-hmm.
They've done a fantastic job up there. I thought they were going to be really bad this season, and they proved not just me, but a lot of people wrong as well. So, with that said, let's go ahead and wrap up this video here. If you guys have not already, please go ahead and like and subscribe. That is the best way to help out the channel. While you're down there, leave a comment on what you want to see the Minnesota Vikings do in the 2025 offseason. And other than that, we will see you guys next time.